Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Apingo. I'm that Chinese history guy. Here we share the stories from the myths, legends, and histories of the Chinese people, from the first creator to the last imperial dynasty. More than 6,000 years of stories, one video at a time. And I would really appreciate it if you could spare a, like, sub, comment, and share for this channel and this video. It would really help with the algorithm and, allow more people to watch the content I put up here. Now, this episode would be the last story of the Shang Dynasty. Of course, there will be a few more episodes after this covering the more academic and archaeological side of this Shang Dynasty, but this would be the last story episode of the series, and we are going to talk about the last of the three sages of the late Shang Dynasty, Wei Zi Qi. So yeah, without much further ado, let's get on with it. Now, the protagonist of today's story is Wei Zi Qi. He was the firstborn son of King Di Yi and the older brother of the tyrant that we know so well, King Zhou of the Shang Dynasty. Now, although Wei Zi Qi was a firstborn, he was born of a concubine and therefore did not have a legitimate claim to the Shang throne. Now, contrary to expectations, after King Zhou's ascension, Wei Zi Qi did not hold a grudge against his brother, nor did he scheme to usurp the Shang throne for himself. Now, instead, being the earnest man that he was, he diligently assisted his brother in running the kingdom together with his two uncles, Bi Gan and Ji Zi. Now, this trio, as we know, would later be known as the three sages of the late Shang Dynasty. Partly because of their exemplary virtues and integrity, and also in how they conducted themselves towards the end of the Shang Dynasty and after the fall of the Shang Kingdom. Now, as we all know, in the early days of King Zhou's reign, he was quite a brilliant leader. He was quite a brilliant king, and he achieved no small measure of successes. However, over time, King Zhou's reign descended into debauchery, excesses, and tyranny. And of course, the kingdom's subjects paid with their blood and their lives, and surrounding vassals lost their faith in the central court, and the oppressed people of the land started to rise against their oppressors, choosing rather to die under the sword than to live like dogs under such a cruel tyrant. Now, seeing that the kingdom was rapidly losing its internal strength and external influences, and basically it was destroying itself under the rule of a maniac, many of these loyal officials of the Shang Court who actually served under the old king, and they were leftovers from the previous reign, many of these loyal officials of the court submitted numerous petitions to the throne pointing out the king's errors, and they besieged him to change his ways. Now, instead of taking these petitions seriously, King Zhou threw most of these old but loyal officials into the dungeons, and those who were more aggressive in their arguments or those who dared to criticize him in the face were actually executed or tortured in cold blood until they died. Now, seeing all this corruption that's going on in court, seeing the loyal officials of the kingdom mercilessly killed and then replaced by cronies and hangers-ons and yes men basically, and of course seeing the Shang Dynasty moving ever closer and faster to annihilation, Wei Zi Qi, being a prince of the dynasty, also could not sit still and do nothing. Of course, he would have submitted numerous petitions and warnings to the king as well, and begged him to change his course before it's really too late to turn things around. Now, although Wei Zi Qi did not suffer the same fate as his many other predecessors. He was not imprisoned, nor was he tortured or executed. But at the same time, his petitions and his warnings received no response from the throne. It was like throwing a rock into a deep bottomless lake and not even seeing any ripples coming back. Now, at the same time, all these things were happening, at the same time that the Shang Court was getting deeper and deeper into the swamps of corruption, at the same time where the king was getting more tyrannical and cruel, at the same time that the kingdom was getting more and more out of control, Wei Zi Qi very astutely observed the rise of the Zhou people under the benevolent leadership of Duke Jichang. Now, this duchy to the west of royal lands was growing stronger by the day, just as the Shang Dynasty, the Shang Kingdom, was moving ever faster toward decline. Now, being a royal prince of the dynasty, of course, Wei Zi Qi was worried and he was anxious about what was about to happen and what he saw was going to happen. So feeling worried, feeling lost and feeling helpless about the shift in power and influence, about the political shift of this power and influence, Wei Zi Qi made the decision to seek an audience with the king to once again warn him about the impending dangers awaiting the Shang Dynasty. And even after the audience, or rather audiences, the king still refused to listen. Instead, King Zhou, the tyrant, told his brother Wei Zi Qi, "It is the heaven's will that I will be the ruler of the realm. What can this puny little warden of the West do to me?" Now, after repeated warnings and repeated petitions, after his third audience with the tyrant, with the king, Wei Zi Qi realized that King Zhou will not heed his warnings. He will never change his ways, and the kingdom is doomed. Now, having seen what he's seen, heard what he heard, and finally understood the inevitable that was going to happen, Wei Zi Qi was in a dilemma over whether to leave these troubled lands and stay away from all these troubles, or to stay on loyally to the end, to fulfill his duties and obligations as a descendant of the Shang Royal House. And so after countless sleepless nights of debating with himself, he decided that he should confide in his uncles about his dilemma, confide in Pikan and Zizi about his dilemma, and he sought their opinion on what he should do. And having heard about his problems, having heard about his dilemma, this is what the two elders of the late Shang Dynasty told him. The heavens is going to destroy our great dynasty soon. But the king is neither in awe of heaven's fury, nor is he fearful of the people's anger. He disregards all and continues to indulge in his wine and his women. He refuses the advice and the petitions of his elders, and he allowed corruption and sins to run rampant in the land. Sacrificial offerings and livestock are being openly used as food, but the offenders are still going around unpunished. The heavens now know that our wealth is gotten and accumulated through murder and sinful means, and the heavens can see that these sins are originating from just one man, but we are unable to make him see his errors. The heavens will unleash his fury upon us, and we will all suffer his punishments together. The kingdom is doomed, and there's nothing we can do about it. We all have but our roles to play, and we cannot leave. We shall stay and perish with the kingdom. But, O prince, escape while you can. If you stay any longer, there shall be no one left to worship the Shang ancestors. Now, hearing what his uncles, his elders told him, and having heard their reasoning, Wei Zi Qi made the very, very difficult, the very, very hard decision to escape the kingdom with all the worship implements of the royal house. It was the only choice that he could make under the circumstances if there was going to be any hope of preserving the Shang bloodline. Now, even Confucius, many generations, or rather 1,000 years later, Confucius would later comment that Wei Zi Qi left to preserve the bloodline. Ji became a prisoner for his loyalty, and Bi Gan died to petition the king. The Shang had 3 great sages. Now, if you have been following this series, you would have known what came later, what happened. So, yeah, the Zhou people staged a rebellion and they overthrew the Shang Dynasty and they destroyed the Shang Kingdom. Now, after the Zhou people destroyed the Shang Kingdom, Wei Zi Qi presented himself before the king of Zhou, the new king, King Wu of Zhou, or Zhou Wu Wang, with all the worship implements of the Shang Royal House. The way Wei Zi Qi presented himself was that he stripped off his clothes and he bared his chest and had his hands bound behind his back, inching towards the new king on his knees and offering up a herd of goats for the army, for the military, as form of reparation. Is that what it's called? A reparation? After you fight a war, you have to pay the invading company or the winning side. So he offered up a herd of goats as reparation and a bushel of reed straws. Now, why reed straws? Now, reed straws were actually a very important instrument in Shang worship rituals. They would use the reed straws to dab it in alcohol, grain alcohol, and do this like a blessing, a form of blessing with this alcohol through the reed straws. So the offering of these reed straws signified the handing over of the rights or the authority of worship, of worshipping the sky or worshipping the heavens. So in a way, it means the handing over of the mandate of heaven. And it was Wei Zi Qi's way of showing the total submission of the Shang people to the new dynasty and the new rulers of the realm. And seeing the sincerity in Wei Zi Qi's surrender, Wu Wang, or King Wu of the Zhou dynasty, personally pardoned him of all the crimes of being a remnant of the overthrown dynasty. Wu Wang, King Wu of Zhou, personally pardoned him and in fact reinstated Wei Zi Qi's status as a noble of the realm. And in fact, many years later, under the reign of King Chen of Zhou, or Zhou Chen Wang, under the reign of Zhou Chen Wang, there was a rebellion, and after the rebellion was put down, Wei Zi Qi was actually granted the fiefdom of the land of Song, or the state of Song, and was given permission by the Zhou Royal Court to use a royal protocol in the worshipping or the worship rituals of Shang ancestors. Now, as the leader of the state of Song, or Song Guo, Wei Zi Qi advocated for benevolence cultivation of the self, or self-cultivation in benevolence, and virtuous governance of the state. And he led the remnants of the Shang people in building one of the most prosperous vassal states in early Zhou dynasty. And this state of Zhou actually lasted or survived for more than 700 years before being destroyed by the state of Qi in 286 BCE, which was in the Warring States period in Chinese history. Now, that's another story. And Wei Zi Qi did not die in war, did not die in famine. He died a very peaceful death. He passed away peacefully. And after he passed on, he was buried in his own fiefdom. He was buried in the state of Song. And his descendants adopted Song as their surname, or in the West you call it the last name or clan name. So Song, the surname Song, originated from here. And Wei Zi Qi's burial ground is now in Weishan County in Shandong Province. Well, that's the story of Wei Zi Qi, the last of the 3 sages of the late Shang Dynasty, and this is the last story of the Shang Dynasty that I'll be presenting on the channel. And of course, in the next couple episodes, we'll touch on the more academic and archaeological side of things. Of course, once again, like I said many times before, I am not an academic and I'm not a scholar, not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a storyteller on YouTube, just regurgitating whatever my research turned up. And even then, having said that, I hope you guys enjoyed these stories and these videos, and I hope you guys actually found some value in what I'm doing here. And if you did, and if you like to support this little project, the best way that you can do so is through our Patreon page. The links are in the description box below, so take a look, and if you can, it will really definitely help to keep the lights on around here and keep the project going. And if not, yeah, you can still give us a like, a sub, a comment, and a share, and it will really help with the algorithm and really help the channel out. It really helps more than you can imagine. Now with that, I guess that's it for today, and yeah, I guess I'll see you beautiful people in the next episode.